Well, guys, this is it. 2025 is the year where we will see big adoption in the crypto market, or we'll be talking new all-time highs in terms of assets. Yes, ADA included in that discussion as well. And I think things are really starting to come into a lot better focus for 2025. And what this is actually showing me is that even some of those projections we were having earlier on this market cycle, that $7 to $15 ADA actually might be kind of low. And I want to show you guys exactly what I mean by that. There's a lot of things we got to get to in this video. So if you guys are new or haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that bell again. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So just zooming out first and looking at the charts, there's a lot of stuff here, which I want to take a moment to break down for you guys. But where some of these projections are coming from, one specifically is actually from Dan Gambardello. He's actually talking about a potential $10 ADA surge coming in this market cycle. So this actually aligns with the bullish sentiment. Obviously, we know about the excitement surrounding the Cardano ecosystem, the excitement surrounding the new incoming administration. These are all things that can obviously help us get to that point. Not only that, but obviously the developments within the ecosystem itself have been a very exciting thing, and I'll get to that further in just a moment. But he even said that on a more conservative range, he wouldn't be surprised by a $7 to $8 ADA. And this would actually make a lot of sense because this falls right within the range that we've been talking throughout this market cycle. I said $7 to $15 ADA would make a lot of sense. Some people think that that's crazy, but there's a few things pointing towards that range specifically. And I want to show you guys exactly what I mean. Now, really what I want to look at first is this big yellow line on here. So this is actually ETH. This is what ETH did in its first two full market cycles. And you guys can see that ADA has actually followed a very similar structure to what ETH did earlier on, okay? From the heights of the prior market cycle down to the depths of the bear. And then now on starting our surge, we're in a very similar spot. Now, really where the difference is between ADA and ETH at that point is what's happening within the ecosystem. And what I mean by that is at that time, Ethereum was already gaining a lot of traction in terms of use, in terms of not necessarily development, right? But Ethereum was used in a lot bigger way at this point in its second market cycle than Cardano is currently. And that is why there's a little bit of a disparity in price here. But I will say what's interesting about this is this doesn't mean that Cardano can't get that use. Okay. That's something that I think people forget a lot. They'll look at the daily active users and say, oh, that Cardano's not getting use. Well, that normally happens later on in market cycles anyways. And by this point, ETH had already gained quite a bit of traction because frankly, there wasn't much in terms of competition in the marketplace. It already had stables, stuff like that, right? So here's the thing. If we look at actually this ETH fractal here, you guys can see that this actually jumps all the way to the top of ADA's rainbow regression curve. The interesting thing about this is this actually brings us all the way up to about $17 in terms of ADA if we do follow exactly what Ethereum did last market cycle. Now, that would obviously put ADA somewhere around that, what, $500 billion market cap, which is what we've been talking about for ADA potential in this market cycle. But really where things get kind of interesting is now ADA's approaching this breakout moment, right? And really what ADA needs to do, or Cardano needs to do in order to get to those ranges, is it needs to get big adoption, which again is still potential, still has potential in this market cycle. But really what I want to focus on here is ADA's big breakout. If we zoom way in, there is this long-term trend. You guys can see from the tops here, we've talked about this recently, that ADA is trying to breach. We actually got our tap all the way back here in December, and now ADA is targeting this trend line. And historically speaking, when ADA does breach this trend line, that is when the fun begins, okay? When we look at last market cycle, you guys can see that ADA actually ended up breaking this all the way back here finally in the beginning of January. And then ADA went on its nice, huge run to the upside of 1,634%. So the thing is when ADA breaks this is where it's going to want to make its move. Now, interestingly enough, if ADA does do a 1,633% run, that's actually targeting almost $25 ADA, which is coincidentally what we talked about for a blow off top potential in this market cycle. I'm not saying we're going to get there for sure. Obviously, we have the law of diminishing returns that does tend to limit how explosive your moves are in the market. So even if we do, let's say 1/3 of that run, that puts ADA somewhere around that $10 price point. So that actually makes a lot of sense, right? So now we're starting to get more to this range of like potentially $9 to $17 ADA instead of $7 to $15 ADA. Now, again, this isn't a guarantee. This is just using Ethereum, using what ADA did last market cycle to kind of gauge where ADA is going to be. And interestingly enough, if we actually look at the time frames on this, you guys can see that from the moment that ADA actually broke this trend line here, broke our ascending trend, it actually was 244 days to the top. Okay. So if we actually look at where, for example, Ethereum was at that point, that actually brings into scope about $12 ADA. Would actually make a lot of sense, right? Now, that being said, the height of the market cycle, because obviously ADA had an early top compared to everything else, that was actually 311 days post ADA's breakout, okay? Which puts us somewhere into November. And coincidentally enough, what falls right in between those? October, where we're talking about our market cycle high. So this is all starting to come into a lot more focus now. And really what I think we need to focus on in a big way right now is where ADA stops its wave 3 of its Elliott wave. Where is this next local high going to be? I've talked about it being somewhere in that $3 to $4 range, which actually gets very close to where Ethereum was at that point in time. And frankly, this is going to move very, very quickly. And why I'm saying that, for example, this is actually a post from Tyler Burke. I believe he watches the channel actually, and this is an incredibly good post. Appreciate the post here. What he said was, now look closely at Cardano, friends. The last time ADA had money flow crossing into the green on the 8-hour chart, Cardano went up 305%. So you guys can see the green cross right here. And this was right before we obviously made our big move here in November. So we're seeing the same thing take place now that we saw at the start of November, which is a very exciting sign because a 305% move for ADA puts us up in, towards that $4 range, right? So again, it's really all starting to make a lot of sense. It's really all starting to come together. And again, we're seeing the right signs in terms of exchange supply too. And I think that this supply shock is going to very, very heavily weigh into ADA's next move. I believe yesterday was a slightly green day, a slight inflow day, but for the most part, you guys can see this consistent removal of supply. So when I say that everything is coming together perfectly, everything is working in hand in hand with each other, it is. We're setting up for this big, exciting, explosive move, this kind of up only time in terms of ADA in the crypto market in general. And it's only going to get exacerbated by mass adoption. So I know I gave you guys a lot of numbers and a lot of figures in this video. Again, that $7 to $15 range looks like it might be shifting slightly higher to that $9 to $17 range. But again, we'll have to make a reassessment. Excuse me, a reassessment once we get to March, April, May. And do this based on where ADA's at that point. So appreciate you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below. Where do you think ADA's headed in this market cycle? But have a great day. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.